One of the things that we both really hope for is an end to the war in Ukraine in 2023. But one of the major hurdles to that, obviously, is what a peace deal realistically would actually look like. And let's put this up there on the screen, because it's actually a decent aggregation of where the biggest fault lines are right now. Lo and behold, it happens to be with Crimea, where a lot of Ukrainians, after the outbreak of the war, never having really made peace with the fact that Crimea was gone, but also not actively campaigning against it, have now made it a major aim of the war itself to not only expel Russia from the occupied areas within Ukraine, but they include Crimea totally within that, including but not limited to official plans, Krystal, by the Ukrainian government, actually to not only reintegrate Crimea, but to actually kick out many of the Russians that currently live there, Russian businesses, Russian citizens, and others, which they say are illegally occupying. Obviously, we can have some sympathy with that point of view, but the point is that they are creating the Ukrainian government step-by-step plans for quote-unquote like de-Russification of Crimea. On the other hand, Crimea, by all intents and purposes, appears to be a total red line for the Russians, not in the way that the city of Kherson, which, if you ask them 3 months ago, it's Russia, today it's not Russia because they're bombing and shelling it.
Right.
It's one of those where on Crimea, it's non-negotiable for them. They see it as totally and completely Russia. They're willing possibly even to use nuclear weapons to defend it. And we've already come close in a few of these incidents, the bridge attack being one of them, where the war creeping up in that direction, or Ukrainians using US-supplied weapons or Western-supplied weapons to shell Crimea, which they consider technically Russia. That would put us in a much more dangerous place. So these are two sides of the coins. Like on the one hand, everybody's suffering. We would hope that some sort of solution comes. On the other one, no closer to negotiation, even though the war is horrific and we're still in the middle of a brutal winter right now.
And Crimea is historically complicated too, in terms of, who it belonged to and who was in control there ultimately. And we should also remember when Russia annexed Crimea, illegally invaded and annexed Crimea back in 2014, there were a lot of people in Crimea that were in favor of it, that were ethnic Russian speakers and were okay with that direction ultimately. I do think that matters in terms of what people ultimately want to see. And you also had the international community more or less tacitly accepting this as Russian territory. I mean, those were effectively the facts on the ground, sort of cemented in place by that Crimean Bridge project. That was incredibly important to Putin and his projection of his sort of imperial project. This was all extremely popular. The annexation of Crimea was extremely popular within Russia. And so what they say here in the Washington Post piece, I thought they put this pretty well. They said, listen, Ukraine's hope of recapturing Crimea long seemed a far-fetched fantasy, but Kyiv's recent battlefield victories and Moscow's missteps have suddenly made it seem plausible, maybe dangerously so. They go on to say the West, while backing Ukraine, fears that any Ukrainian military incursion into Crimea could incite Putin to take drastic action, potentially even the use of a nuclear bomb. Some Western officials hope that a deal relinquishing Crimea to Russia could be the basis for a diplomatic end to the war. Ukrainians dismiss that idea as dangerously naive, while Russians say they will not settle for what is already theirs. Now, there is an open question of whether Zelensky is really, truly adamantly opposed to ceding Crimea in any way, shape, or form to Russia. This could potentially be the opening negotiating position, so that then when you actually get into some sort of an attempt to diplomatically end this war, it looks like you're really giving up something significant in those negotiations. That is one possibility. But, you have to assume that the Washington Post is sort of being fed this information from people within the Biden administration who see this as potentially a real sticking point here.
Bingo. Put it well. I think the point is we have no clue. It could really go either way, and it's probably going to be one of the major storylines for 2023.
Indeed.
Continue to watch it closely. We'll see you guys later.
Hey guys, ready or not, 2024 is fully upon us now, and Saagar and I have been brainstorming ways that we can really up our game for this critical election.
Yeah, we rely on our premium subs to expand our coverage, to add staff, to upgrade the studio. We just want to give you the best independent coverage of this election, which is possible. So if you can help us out, become a premium subscriber today, breakingpoints.com, or the link is down here in the description video. It really means the world to us, and if you like what we're all about, this is the best possible way to keep us 100% independent, working only for you.